Orphaned on the streets of Montreal, in the spring of 1969, in Montreal, Canada, John Lennon Yoko Ono's Bed-In for Peace was in full swing. 8.5 months later, I entered the world, and my first days were engulfed in feelings of abandonment, left by my mother at the hospital where I was born. Like many orphans with various birth defects, my adoption journey was challenging. I was born with a ventricular septal defect, a hole in my heart, and an undescended testicle. These health issues made finding a forever home difficult. I remember feeling very unwanted and alone during those early years. Not long after, I was taken to an orphanage, which became the first home I knew. My memories of that place are clear, yet sorrowful. I recall crying in my crib for hours, my tears eventually drying up as I lay in a large, sparsely decorated room filled with other cribs. Each held another child, all of us isolated in our small, confined spaces. It was a world of solitude, where the only constant was the silent presence of other orphans, each confined as I was. Life in the orphanage was defined by isolation. From infancy until about the age of 1, we were confined to cribs. As we grew into toddlers, we were moved into playpens, slightly larger spaces that did little to foster interaction or exploration. My contact with other children was minimal, limited by an environment that favored strict supervision over any form of nurturing engagement. The staff, spread thin, could only provide the most basic care, leaving our emotional and developmental needs largely unmet. This early isolation had a huge impact on my ability to form close relationships later in life. It wasn't until I became a father to my daughter, Catherine, that I truly understood and experienced the depth of loving another person. Amidst the sterile routine of the orphanage, there was a ray of hope in the form of a social worker named Pat. She saw something in me, a gentle soul behind my quiet demeanor, and she took it upon herself to change my course. Pat convinced her biological sister and her husband to adopt me. They had initially hoped for a girl, but Pat's conviction about the bond we could form persuaded them to welcome me into their family. Her relentless advocacy not only gave me a family, but also was one of the first times someone recognized and valued me as an individual, beyond just another child in the orphanage. Despite finding a family, the feeling of being unwanted haunted my childhood, a sentiment often echoed by my adoptive family members, and later by schoolmates and bullies. In an era when it was not uncommon for physically disabled infants to be abandoned, I somehow felt fortunate that the Carlisles chose to adopt me. Little is known about my biological parents. What I do know is that my adoptive mother and father came from backgrounds marked by their own trials. My mother surviving the Blitzkrieg bombings in England, and my father enduring the sectarian violence in Ireland. They too were searching for a new beginning when they settled in Montreal, perhaps hoping to leave behind their pasts, just as they hoped I could leave behind mine.